Thank you, everyone. We now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Sorry.
So it's great to see a nice turnout here tonight. We would like to start by introducing the Employee of the Month, Brenda Pickney. She unfortunately has a prior obligation and cannot be here tonight, but I did want to read a letter from Alfred Callahan from the Southampton Fire Department. To the members of the Village Board, on behalf of the chiefs, officers, and members of the Southampton Fire Department, I would like to recognize one of the village employees, Brenda Pickney. Brenda has been responsible for keeping the firehouses presentable, which is not an easy task, with 145 firefighters and 24 vehicles in and out every day. While we do what we can to keep these things as neat as possible, Brenda has always come in and made sure our buildings were as presentable as possible. Each time any of our members sees Brenda, she greets us with a smile. While there are times that we make her job more difficult than it needs to be, Brenda has never complained. One such time was this last month around the 4th of July weekend. The Dublin Fire Brigade came over with 30 firefighters, and our department hosted several events at the firehouse for their members. Over those few days, our members failed to do their part to keep things order and properly clean. The next day, when our members got together to clean the room, they arrived to a clean and polished firehouse. The kitchen, meeting room, and rec room were all cleaned and trash was taken out. They found the same thing done at the next firehouse. We later found out that Brenda had shown up, and instead of complaining or doing what her job demanded, she took it upon herself to go above and beyond for our members. When I had next seen Brenda to thank her, again, she did not complain. Brenda greeted me with a smile. Her approach to us has always been what someone would have to do in a house with 145 people. While we have reminded our members to take better care of the stations, we have Brenda to thank for always making sure the job is done right. On behalf of the Southampton Fire Department Chiefs, we would like to recognize Brenda for always going above and beyond for us and our stations. Her ability to maintain a positive attitude, regardless of what her day brings, is the trait we should all try to emulate. Alfred Callahan, First Assistant Chief, Southampton Fire Department.
This is Brenda's third award.
Is it?
Yeah.
So this is for Brenda. I'll hand this to Russell, but this would be her plaque today. So we are looking forward to giving this to her. Russell, thank you.
The photo as well.
Thank you. Next up is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board should sign in at the front table to be recognized. We limit this to 3 minutes per speaker, so please approach the podium and state your name and address for board minutes. Thank you. First, we have Evelyn Conrad from 18 South Roscoe Drive. Welcome, Evelyn.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm talking about, this is the law, state law, not village law, asbestos, which is being violated in our village every day. I will tell you about the most recent thing I found. On Monday, the 22nd of July, around 9 o'clock, I was going to a yoga class when I saw that 58 Roscoe Drive, the Lynch house, was being demolished. So I drove over to the building department and looked first at the file of 31 South Roscoe, which had just been demolished. I found an asbestos report on that one. This is supposed to be, it's mandatory for houses under 74, built before 1974. This was a report that should cost $2,000. That report looked a little more like 3 paragraphs, as if it was for a bottle of scotch. But in the case of 58 Roscoe Drive, there was no asbestos exam, test, or anything whatsoever. So Chris was not there, so I talked to Tim and I said, you've got to stop that job. This is a major violation of the law. He started running me around. I went back to the job. The contractor was there saying, well, they had just remodeled all the plumbing. Has nothing to do with it. They happen to have asphalt. They happen to have roof tile that's asbestos, and who knows what's behind the walls. Asbestos is no danger until you start demolishing or unstabilizing it or releasing it, and it does cause cancer. Mercifully, this gentleman was very nice. I saw him, told him I was having a problem with the building department. He went upstairs because it is a matter of the health of this community. And Tim finally did stop the job. I thank you again. I had to go to the city at 4 o'clock that day for oral argument the next day, so I was a little out of commission until Thursday morning. I went back up to the building department. Here I have some things for you. If you'd be kind enough to take one yourself and give them copies. Sure. The first was a very rushed little report from the man who claimed to have gone on site. You'll notice it was redacted. Now, whom did they want to hide this man from? From John Bennett, who handles who's the lawyer for the Lynches? No, they just wanted me not to be in touch with him. I was, no matter. Redacted documents are a little akin to meetings that I held where their votes taken, but no minutes reported. You always know something is wrong. So when you see a redacted report, you get a little nervous. I also found a letter, that's the second thing, from John Bennett. He did a good job of keeping his skirts clean. He says, we've spoken to our clients regarding questions raised regarding the presence of asbestos at the property. We've been informed there was investigation performed and no asbestos was revealed. Well, that's a little fast because the guy who went to inspect it took some samples. If any of you have had statistics, you know that the one who designs the samples dictates what the result is going to be. There's a lot of control of the results by designing the sample. But anyway, I will assume this man is absolutely sterling. The next thing that happened is that the job was going full blast. The demolishing was going on. I understand. I had warned the neighbors and told them I couldn't be there the rest of Monday to keep an eye on it on Tuesday. I talked to Fred Weinfurt, who's directly across, Mrs. Smith,
Evelyn,
the widow of Bob Smith.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, do you think you might want to hear about this? Because I'm going to ask you to report it to the authorities. And there is more to come about the illegality. I suggest you give me a little more time. I certainly give up my time after the meeting. I mean, the later one, may I? Anyway, the demolition was going on. The law states very clearly that demolition is not supposed to go on after a job is stopped for at least 10 days for all kinds of matters. On this Tuesday, 2 weeks and 1 day after I had asked them to stop the job, I asked Diane...
We need to tie this together.
Yeah. I asked Diane to get me the stop work order. She went back and asked him for it. She said, I didn't do one. She said, how long have you been an inspector? Then I waited for 15 minutes to get this piece of garbage. And do you know what it means to fake a legal document? It's a felony. That's federal law, not state. I know this gentleman prefers to have local laws. That is a felony. All right? Now, I have the report, the full report from the sample here. You can get that from the building department. I will read you only the first sentence because it's hard to have full confidence. Dear Mr. Conti, Conic Bay Materials, on July 22, 2019, a pre-demolition asbestos inspection was performed at the above referenced address. It was not pre-demolition, it was demolition going full blast. Now, if he lies about that, it does give you some pause. However, at the end of his report, he states quite clearly that according to the law, which I'm waving at you, I'm not going to give you copies, I suggest you get some, that any ACM identified in this report, which is, of course, in the roof tiles, should be removed in accordance with all applicable asbestos regulations, including but not limited to the following: NYCRR Part 56, which I've just shown you. You have children, Mark? Yeah. Well,
Evelyn,
the houses near you that were demolished also didn't have asbestos done.
We're going to have to finish up.
Thank you. I'm available to look into this.
Right. If there's anything else you want to submit to us,
well, yes,
or you
I
can
would like
tomorrow.
to. No, though I'm not submitting another darn thing, I would like to know to whom you're reporting and what actions you're taking, because if you're not, I'm going to have to. I am an attorney. I'm an officer of the court. There's a felony that's been perpetrated, and
I think,
asbestos law
as an
has been
attorney, I
violated.
also warn you that being accusatory is a little,
I'm fully aware of what
All
I'm
right, very
saying.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am, of course, accusatory. I've shown you the document that was produced 2 weeks and a day after its date.
Thank you, Evelyn.
I just want to mention that within hours of seeing this email, the counselor, myself, and others went to the building department to research this, and I think we need to wait until the next session when Counselor Barun has returned so we can address this and some of the process discussions, but this apparently is under the jurisdiction of the state and not the village. So I just want to put that out there.
thank you.
Okay. Fran, you're the next public comment. You get to follow up Evelyn's nice talk to us. Thank you.
I don't know if I can do that. Fran Adamczewski, 40 West Prospect Street, Southampton. First of all, I want to big shout out to the Southampton Volunteer Ambulance and the police department. One of my clients had an accident today, and we had to call 911, and the response time was unbelievable. They did a great job when they got there. And now to the point. Surf school and private lessons. I know it's coming to the end of the summer, but it's been a few incidents been happening. This past weekend, I had to diffuse an altercation where one of the surf schools had 8 kids, and they were pushing kids into other little kids that were swimming in the water, and one of them was hit, and one of the parents was PO'd and wanted to tear the kid a new, you know what. So I told the parents to sit down, told the surf school to leave. They left, but I don't know I know you said you were going to get a couple surf schools. Has anybody stepped up and took a permit from the village? Private lessons, they're being taught at the Bathing Corporation. One of my friends was hit by one of the kids. I almost hit one of the kids, was pushed in front of me, and the teacher says, "Sorry, we didn't see you." And I had my red jersey on from my ocean rescue team, and I was riding a 12-foot board, and I am 6'5". And I said, "How did you not see me?" I said, "I don't want to hit anybody. I don't want to hit any kids. I understand you're trying to make your money, but you're doing it the wrong way. You guys got to step up, maybe put your foot down and get this under control before somebody really gets hurt, and then the village gets sued, and somebody's going to get hurt, and I don't want to see that happen." There was a little kid that got hit down at the beach. I was at Sunday, and lucky he didn't get hurt. He was just traumatized, but he did get hit. So maybe, I think these surf schools are running rampant, and they don't care. They think that maybe, the new mayor isn't going to do anything, because it seemed like at the beginning of the summer when the other mayor, Mike Irving, was mayor, he dismantled them. They were gone. It was nice and peace and quiet down at the beach. And then all of a sudden it was like, I don't want to throw you underneath the bus, Jess, but they're like, they think you're a joke, kind of. And I want to see you succeed. You're a good man. I want to see this board succeed. We got to get these kids under control before something really bad happens. So,
One of the things that we want to do at the end of the season is to bring together the surf community with a committee of board members, so that we know, not in April or May when everyone's already advertising. We want to put a plan in place for beginning in 2020.
all right, because when I was down at the parking lot at the Bathing Corporation, I was talking to somebody, and a lady pulled up and was talking to one of the surf instructors and said, "How do I get, do you still give lessons? I heard there's no surf school in the village." And he's like, "Yeah, you just got to call Flying Point Surf Office, and we'll set up a private lesson for you right down here at the Bathing Corporation."
And I would only add, actually, we'll add a few things. The first thing is that we have moved forward with our licensing program so that our surf instructors can adhere to village law. We also can provide you with some more information on who has applied, who has received their licenses. Our beaches without surfers, I don't like to see that.
I don't like to see it either, but it's got to get under control because
But if anyone is conducting surf school without a license, that is a violation of village law, and we will be stepping up our enforcement efforts because now we have given everyone the opportunity to apply for their licenses and do it legally, appropriately, and according to the rules that we have set out. So surf school and surf lessons within the rules of appropriateness are exactly what we want. I actually was on the beach, and I heard immediately about the situation you were describing, and that is the opposite of what we want.
Exactly.
So we do want to get everyone on the beach.
I want a surf school. I want a surf school. I want these kids to be taught, but taught the right way. Safety is a big issue. With these surf schools and the private lessons, it's not about safety. It's about the money. They don't care anything. They're just sending kids left and right and not even, your hour's up, where's my $100? You get 2 or 3 kids, that's $300 an hour. They don't care. They don't care about the locals. They don't care about us. Half these kids, some of the kids that are given lessons aren't even from here. For example, Hawaii Joe, that they call him Hawaii Joe, Jersey Joe, he's one of the guys that pushed the kid in front and hit some guy's board.
You should actually give us a call, and then we can send our ordinance inspector or officers over, because that's exactly what we'd like to hear about. And we'll be right there.
I've talked to Russell, and there's pictures. Well, I have pictures. Of the guy taking money from people in the parking lot on the beach. I mean, it's obvious. It's not, and they don't care. They don't care. It's all about the money. They don't care about, they're always saying, oh, Fran, share the wave, share the wave. I'll share everything. But do it the right way. My fiance doesn't even want to go to the beach down there and surf because she's traumatized when she goes in the water, and she's a great surfer. And she doesn't even want to go surfing there. And it's a great beach, and it's a great, place to be. And she doesn't even want to go there.
Thank you.
It's sad. Thank you. Thank you.
Evelyn, we
Go home to bed, and I just have one more thing to tell you.
can we?
I went to the building department today. Let me tell you some of the other
Evelyn,
places that didn't have.
Evelyn, you need to be recognized by the chair, and you have not
All right. You don't want to know the other houses that didn't have asbestos abatement done?
Evelyn, you are. I'd like to get through the residents who've signed up, and then you can go at the end of the sheet that we have here. So let's get through Caesar and Rob, and then you can be up next. So Caesar Malaga, Herrick Road.
Yeah, my name is Cesar Malaga, 221 Herrick Road here in Southampton. I would like to thank, the former mayor and the board, and also Julie Fitzgerald, who guided me to get all the permits and papers required to honor our dear friend, Carolyn Whitby. She was a great woman that we admire her, and it was successful. I never thought that we will have so many people go. The only thing is I got the help from the news media. That why didn't they send the press release prior to 1 week? I was ordered that I have to send 1 week prior to the event. So, but they said no. Our papers, we have to present the papers early. And so we would like in the future, to send the press release earlier so it can be in the papers. But it was a good ceremony, and we had many kids marching, walking from the church all the way to the cemetery. And it's something that, we have to thank someone who is very helpful and to us. So we will miss her forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Rob Coburn.
Rob Coburn, 345 Hill Street. I'm a member of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation, but I'm here just to talk about something as a citizen, which I've been before the board before, but I know we have some new members, and I just wanted to revisit it, and it's traffic safety. So I'll talk about some of the good news. Gary Gillespie and his team did some work to put in some new speed signs and speed limit signs and to redistribute some that were crowded together on Hill Street, and also installed speed indicator light westbound on Hill Street. I focus on Hill Street knowing that traffic issues are throughout the village, but I happen to live there, and it is also the most trafficked street in the village, so it's a good place to start. And those steps by Gary, and also some significant stepped-up enforcement and presence by Chief Cummings and his team on the street have really helped. And I'm not a scientist and I don't take strict data, but I watch the traffic enough. I think the average speed has come down on Hill Street about 3 or 4 miles an hour in the last year and a half, which is a big change. And the incidence of cars going 45 miles an hour or more on Hill Street has also come way down. It still happens, but it's come way down. So that's all the good news. The bad news is there's still some work to go. I do believe the village should have a traffic study. I talked with previous board meetings about that to really understand what the causes are, what the issues are that come from those causes, and how they might be solved. So I'd ask you to look into doing a targeted traffic study in the village. But the other one is really simple. It's one of the steps that we've said from the beginning of the 4 presentations I've made, and that is to consider putting in sidewalks, even temporarily, on a trial basis. And I'd like to just, for the sake of new members on the board, ask that this come back up again. There are at least 4, arguably 5 locations that could be considered on Hill Street. Going west to east, it would be Lee Avenue, Halsey Neck Lane, Halsey Street, the Catholic Church, and First Neck Lane. And my recommendation or request would be that you, whatever process needs to take place for you to authorize those, or at least some of those, and possibly, as I said, on a 12-month trial basis. The reason for this in particular is, and it's particularly true in the summer, I watch people every day, and it's a dozen times a day or more on weekends, families with young kids, pedestrians or dismounted from bicycles, waiting 2, 3, 4 minutes to cross Hill Street. The traffic is supposed to stop for them, and it doesn't. And I watched a mother and probably a 7 or 8-year-old son wait at the end of my driveway 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, for 3 minutes, and then they ran across as though they were running for their lives. And I think I hate to say it, I just think we're overdue for a pedestrian or bicyclist traffic issue in the village. Making the village more traffic and pedestrian and bicycle friendly was one of the major goals of the comprehensive plan. I think it's still in there, and I'd love to. We've done a good job with the crosswalks downtown. I think that's helped. I'd just like to see that expanded. Are there any questions?
Rob, I just want to let you know, about 2 weeks ago, we got a letter from a Hill Street resident asking about crosswalks, and I reached out to Gary, and I just had a quick email exchange, and I think there is some point that we are going to start looking into whether it be a traffic study or a way to possibly find a place on Hill Street that something could eventually go in. Just a matter of finding out where would be the most logical way to go. So,
and just to thank you for doing that. Just to repeat for the record something that was on the record from previous meetings. Things like crosswalk studies have shown, even when there are no pedestrians or bicyclists, they remind, their subconscious reminder to drivers visually that they're sharing the road, and they drive more slowly and more carefully. So it's part of a traffic calming menu that's available, and it's an easy and very practical one. But thanks for following up on that.
Thank you. I think that's excellent. It's not just Hill Street where we're getting letters from. We've had other streets. I live on David White's Lane, and that is a street that is prone for an accident. So we should address this. I'd like to do it, and you're absolutely correct. Something like a crosswalk, very easy to do, and more of a visual thing that could potentially slow traffic down. So thanks for bringing that up.
Also, if you don't mind, I want to add that there's some residents who live on the Wickapog toilsome cut-through that people are using to bypass and traffic. Worked with the chief of police who's set up patrols there. He was very successful in calming it down. And we also put, Paul Murphy, under Gary's direction, put speed signs up along Toilsome as well. So we made some changes there as well.
Gary, do you want to mention the one that we looked at that you're going to put up a speed sign on? Moses? Thank you.
Yeah, so Trustee Allen and I and previous Trustee Hattrick, we've been discussing putting the speed sign onto Moses Lane. We've had a resident about mid-block there who's been there for several years, is complaining about the traffic. We have an existing speed sign that is over by the library that's been up for several years. Trustee Hattrick said the traffic there has been responding well, so we decided to remove that and install it over on Moses Lane. Again, Trustee Allen and I and the homeowners met, and while we were there, we were watching a lot of traffic going by about 40 miles an hour, just guesstimate. And even when I put my flashing lights on my truck as we're standing on the side of the road, it really didn't slow anybody down. It seems to be residential people in SUVs. It's not construction traffic, but it was, every minute or so you'd get somebody just flying down the road. It's really not a long stretch. It's almost like 1,200 feet to a stop sign, and yet people are still rushing to the next one. So we are planning on doing it. I think the brackets might have gone up on the pole yesterday or today, so we're close. So we'll put that up. We call it temporary. We'll see what that does. Just like Hill Street, it should slow people down. And then we can talk to the police department too for a little enforcement as well. I did talk to Captain Ryan about that, and he said they would do whatever they could. So that's about it.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Evelyn, if you'd like, now's the chance.
Thank you very much. This morning, Dr. Fox at 25 Leo's Lane has cancer. This morning, I went up to the building department again, and I looked at some old files. 20 Leo's Lane, 32 Leo's Lane, and 37 Leo's Lane behind me. None of them had any asbestos inspection. Now, mind you, there's more to this than inspection. Full abatement, contractors tell me, adds about $10,000 to the cost. All right. However, you do know what asbestos causes. It does cause cancer. The other thing is where the 58 Roscoe Drive is concerned. The asbestos found in the tiles was not friable. That means they would not have had to put on those suits and contain the whole place. They did need asbestos handlers with masks and proper gloves, and they did need to put a sign outside saying asbestos work. All right? So the village knows. And this is not the only place it's happened. In our part of the world, all the houses had asbestos shingles. That was it. That's the way they were done at the time. And the insulation around pipes, most of us had renovated, so maybe most of the pipes are all right. But demolition is the surest way to release asbestos. Now, my history with this goes back 6 years. Susan Sable had ovarian cancer, and the spec builder next to her was demolishing that house. I have all the pictures and all the facts. Again, the building department did it fast. We'll send someone over, no asbestos found. What happens with those shingles that were found at 58? They're supposed to be taken down by hand, guys with masks on, put on a big spread of some plastic, and it has to be disposed of in special bags. Norsec is licensed to do it. However, Norsec did the Burnett Street job without any bags or anything, all right? So we have a long history. I told Bill Hattrick about it. Bill sent, this is about 4 years ago, so Bill sent, our former mayor. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I've been doing this, and it's awful to find this, awful. And had the building department say they would be enforcing. Well, now we know how they've been enforcing, right? Thank you very much for the extra time. Now I can go.
Thank you, Evelyn. Have a good night. Thank you again. Next, we move forward with board presentations. Lake Agawam Boardwalk Railing Extension. We have Gary Gillespie.
Very low tech tonight.
I like that last one. Yes.
Trustee Parrish and Steve Phillips, our park supervisor, and myself have been talking about this recently, and Steve and I have talked about it over the last year and had it in the budget. We built a nice brand new boardwalk on Lake Agawam. The railings there are all done in Ipe and green heartwood and very hardy wood, and we have a Feeney cable railing that goes along, so you're able to see right through the rail. It's very nice. That was one project by itself. We had talked about a phase 2 of continuing this railing along Lake Agawam, where we have an existing chain link fence, which is in disrepair. The pictures you see there, unfortunately it's pink, I'm sorry about that, but the pink photo there will show you that the chain link posts are actually rotting away. So we do have a safety issue. We have to do something with it. And what we would like to do is continue the same railing all the way around. So what we've come up with is we have 2 mechanics in the Parks Department who feel they can handle the job. We would like to go out and get a budget of about $15,000 of material. We would put in 6x6 mahogany with a 3x12 cap rail, which would be similar to the area next to it. And then we use the same Feeney rail system to run through it. And essentially, we would carry the boardwalk fence all the way around Lake Agawam where the existing fence is. Make it safer, beautify the area.
Are we getting a boardwalk or just fencing?
Just fencing. What we would like to eventually to do around the corner where we have dirt that's sort of worn out is we would continue our sidewalk there and pour probably a 5-foot sidewalk along the length of that fence.
And timeline?
Well, if we could get this approved tonight, we could have the materials ordered in 2 weeks. We will do a lot of the work off-site, and then we'd like to start as soon after the muster as possible. Let's say the 3rd week of September.
It's pretty bad down there. Excuse me. I went down with Gary and Steve Phillips, and particularly this chain link fence, there are some areas, like Gary pointed out, that are pretty bad and rusty, and you can go and you can shake it. It's just a matter of time before something lets loose, and aesthetically it doesn't look pleasing at all. And moving forward with Lake Agawam and all the positive things we're doing there, this would tie in really well with it, in my opinion. And Steve and Gary are on top of it with using some of their existing mechanics to be able to offset some costs. So I think it's a positive step, Jesse, moving forward.
Yep.
Just want to add, too, I got a picture of my dad leaning on that rail in 1952 as a young man. So it's been there for quite a while. No, I didn't.
That was one of the original pictures, all just sort of faded.
So that has served its life.
Yes.
If you've got that picture, I'd actually be very curious to have a look at the lake then.
Yeah.
Black and white, you can't tell the color of the water. That's really about it. Russell, you have the purchase orders.
There are purchase orders in your behind the pictures. There are 2 of the purchase orders. There's a third that you don't have a price for yet. If the board is interested, we could entertain a resolution now to establish that capital project. But if the board's, you said how much would you not to exceed?
Well, we're looking at a budget of $15,000. The estimates right now are a total of $13,837. That's 2 POs. Watermill lumber would be 1 PO of $12,587.32. That would cover the wood, the glue, and the cable system. And then we have an additional PO of $12.50 from Liberty Iron, and that is for stainless steel rod that will get drilled into the concrete and then drilled into the bottom of the posts.
And Steve did go out and put a couple bids out there, and Watermill came back well ahead of everybody else, so he did his homework also.
Great.
Any other comments from the board?
No, I'm all good with it.
Would the board be interested in moving forward?
I think so.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees establish a capital project, the Lake Agawam Boardwalk Railing Extension, not to exceed $15,000 out of capital reserve, subject to permissive referendum.
So moved.
Or a second? Second. Okay. Trustee Yastrzemski. Trustee Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Trustee Polaro.
Thank you.
Resolution's adopted.
Thank you, Gary. Nice job. We do not have any public hearings tonight, so we will move forward with communications to the board. We have Susan Hobbs regarding the village lot near Wall Street.
Yes, there's a letter in your file that is, in essence, I don't need to read the whole thing, but with concerns about traffic congestion and the state of the parking lot that is by Wall Street and off of Cameron. And I think, Gary, you have some things that you want to add to that?
Several years ago, we received the same complaints in the area. The 2 parking lots, or the connected parking lots, are in disrepair. These flow between the apartments over on Wall Street, all the way over to Fellingham's, over to Cameron Street. So essentially, this parking lot sits behind those two. There's road work that needs to be done in both areas. There is overgrown trees. The asphalt is failing, the concrete is failing. So we looked at this whole area to see what we could do. We were hoping, first of all, to increase parking. The best plan would only increase parking by 6 spots. The real handicap here is the existing utility poles and trees, so we tried to work around that. We had VHB come up with this plan, and the plan basically is very snowplow friendly, so there's a lot less islands than in typical parking lots. It has a sidewalk that would connect from street to street to keep people out of the parking lot and safe. And it has some small green space areas along the back of Chase Bank that we could put a little bit of seating, park benches and such there. General idea was just to clean the whole area up, make it presentable for there, and just, I know it's a parking lot, but we wanted to beautify that back area a little bit, because right now it's a mishmash of 4 or 5 different parking lots, many dumpsters, disorganized parking. All right, so the other option here is Wayne coming back? Or?
He is coming back.
This thing, it snagged down a little bit because we did have some property there that we have to look at, that the village would have to acquire. That's a little private road back there that has no ownership. So we're looking into taking care of that. Once we had that, and we got Chase Bank on board, who currently has the lease for the small parking lot across from Fellingham's. We need to send a registered letter out from the board to all the property owners, showing them this plan again, and knowing that everybody's on board for public comment. We're estimating about $250,000 to $300,000 to do this project, and that would be at the cost of the village board. I don't see any grants for parking lots at this point.
When would you estimate that this project could be done if we went through this process?
I think you'd probably be looking at fall at this point, because you're going to have a public comment period.
Right.
Gary, would you mind just explaining why that pothole has to be refilled all the time? We have those 2 big potholes behind Chase across from Fellingham's that generates the majority of the complaints that we get, other than the congestion in that parking lot. And I know you constantly address it and fill it up, but you had explained this to me once before. If you could just tell the general public why the entire parking lot has to be repaired in order for that to go away.
Well, we could take that little parking lot by itself and we could fix that parking lot, but we need to do the entire area. So basically what you're looking at there is you're looking at 2 drains on the 2 corners of that parking lot, and all the traffic and the trucks rotate. They turn and turn and turn on that. So we're going in there and we're patching it. We're throwing cold patch, even hot patch, and we don't keep it because it's just a patch. There's seam after seam. And the turning of the tires going around that thing just loosen it all up. So we constantly go in, scrape it all out. We put in blend. We put in more patch. It holds for a few months, but sooner or later the trucks just wear it out. Now, if we went in there and we scarified that whole parking lot out, took it down to nothing, and went back in with solid 4 inches of asphalt, we wouldn't have any of those seams, and we'd probably be good for another 20 years in there. But in addition to that, we just wanted to have better flow by connecting it to the other and gaining a few spots. The one thing about this plan, just point, also is down the corner of Wall Street. We have a lot of people coming through that lot as a shortcut, and because you hit one-way streets in that corner, it's a little bit of congestion there. The people who live by the apartments aren't happy with that, and this plan basically took that entry out. So the entry that used to be at the intersection of Oak and Wall would no longer be there. If people wanted to travel through this parking lot, they would have to travel through further west, more toward the back of La Charlotte.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
Did you say it's how many? Would you say that plan, it's 6 spots?
7.
6
months.
We worked it 3 different ways, and 2 of the ways came up with 6. One came up with 2. The only alternative to try to get more spots is pretty much cut every tree down and put all the utilities underground.
right, thank you again. Christy, Russ, are we going to do some more comment, or how should we proceed here?
It's up to you whether if someone wants to speak about this particular issue, that's
Okay.
your call if you want to do that.
Come on down.
It's Christine Sullivan Whitaker. I'm just mentioning that,
Give your address too, please.
44 Cameron Street.
Thank you very
Which
much.
is, I have to say that I'm one of the people that drives through, because we only have one way out, which is Pine Street, and then we only have one way in, which is Main Street. So, you see, we can't back up anywhere. I mean, there's nowhere to go. And so I think if you're going to do this, you need to also look at the traffic light and the no turn right on red out of Pine Street, because nobody will be able to drive a car. Because the only other choice, if you don't want to go to Main Street, and a lot of times you can't turn left from Pine Street to go in front of Sorrel on Hampton Road. You just can't. So the only way you could go is to go down to Little Plains and go south and go around Meeting House or go around the lake. I mean, practically, go around Gin Lane or one of the cross streets to get to South Main, and then you head back in. So it is a problem, since they got that walk to school, that they cut away that there was no going south off of Cameron. So logistically, I don't know. It needs to be thought about, because if you're not going to do something, which I understand is the state from Russell, about the traffic light at Pine and Hampton Road, because there's no way to get off Cameron Street except going to Pine.
I'd like to see two-way resilience.
And so you can't get in unless you go through the former school parking lot, which is the Cinderella parking lot, come by Fellingham's, is the only way for any of us to get home if we don't use Main Street.
So Christine, we've had a lot of conversations on this,
Okay.
as has Robin. I think we've started.
So coming off
talking
Meeting
about-
House Lane and being able to go through the parking lot on Oak has been helpful
There's been discussion in the
Yeah.
past about making it two ways again on Pine
Yeah.
Street.
I think I was told, though, that once you apply for a grant,
The grant,
you'll never
yeah,
get a
but-
grant again or something.
I think it's X amount of
different
years for that grant, and then you could go ahead.
Yeah. That's
There's a
exactly right.
there's a clawback period about any grants and when it's done, and once you go beyond that clawback period, you can.
Yeah.
Depends on the
Oh, you
grant.
can?
Sometimes you can go back and
Okay.
readdress it.
Well, I'm not trying to be selfish here. It's just like gridlock living there now.
I mean, I don't know if Gary can address
Okay.
that any.
Thank you.
That has been come up in the past with previous people up here.
So I know.
Because that was part of a larger grant to do the safe routes to school, and
Right.
I was never a fan of that from day one, of making that a one-way, but somehow that became part of it.
Yeah.
And I always discussed with now 2 mayors ago about reopening that to two-way traffic.
We can do anything we want. At this point,
That's
we
pretty
would
much
not
what I
have to. We would not have to refund the money, but I don't think we'd be able to apply for another Safe Routes to School grant and be approved
Ever again? Is that to jeopardizing it?
until everybody there retired. That's generally it. They don't want
hold to that personally?
They don't want to see any of it change. But what we do is there's a certain period that we're afraid that they'll essentially ask for the grant money back, and I could say we're well past that at this point. But if you do go in there and they're going to go out and they're going to look at previous grants they gave you and see how they're working, it'll be part of their inspection, and they'll come out and say, "Oh, it's gone."
But can we just address one based on real hard data since putting it in? I think we can come to a conclusion that it doesn't work. So can't that be part of a rationale to change that part of it? Because that grant covered a lot. That covered the sidewalk going all the way down the center of the parking lot. It covered the ped crossing lights and the bump out. So it covered a lot. We would only be looking to alter one part of it. Again,
Right. And to your
something they're gonna
point,
look
we've
at it,
already
but-
altered another part of it.
Huh?
Right. We've already altered parking.
correct on that's right. on
In
Hampton
there.
Road,
It's a
right.
little more minimal.
But again, that was for good cause too. At the end of the day, that justified it. It was a very justifiable change.
I think we would be smart if we want to go down that road that we would write a letter, to that part of Albany and say, listen, this isn't working out. We need to make some adjustments here. We're looking into this.
So ask for
and have
permission.
that conversation.
Ask politely for permission to see if,
Well, I think it's a good idea. The only other problem you're going to run into is we have that nice elm tree there that's on the National Register that we've now given space to that we will be taking away.
well, we'll be taking it away.
Because
Before, it was too late.
we've removed the asphalt, so that tree has gotten healthier, and all those roots have now grown into that space. So you have that consideration. Again, I'm not saying it can't be done. Just want to warn you of things that will come up.
Well, here's one thing. I feel like we're talking about it, and we know we have a traffic problem that's just compounded. We need to make 2 traffic studies, one for Hill and one for this whole Cameron-Hampton Road. It ties into the parking lot. We've had these discussions. What do we need to do, grant aside, to move forward on this? Because we just can't wait anymore. We've talked about it at the Planning Commission. We talked about it last year, and we just have to move forward. I know we had to detangle a lot of legal issues. This is prior to your time, so it's on us. I know you and I have had that concern about the one-way, two-way, and there's been disagreement on it, but we just need to commission a study. So that's really what I want to get done here today. I know you do too, and I'm sure you do too, but we can't let this happen. Nobody can get through there anymore.
I would
it's-
suggest if we try to do a traffic study, we really have the parameters set that we're looking for that area. What's happened in the past is we started talking about that parking lot. Different trustees like different things because of, where their businesses were or whatnot. So we looked at the entries, the exit, we looked at street light, traffic light timing, and then it started morphing into the whole village. And once we started looking at the whole village, it was kind of like, yeah, let's do a traffic study. Never happened.
Yeah, I mean, the studies sometimes, I have mixed.
So I would say,
Studies and
if you would
committees,
like to say, let's look at the block from Meeting House to Hampton Road and Pine to Main.
Can I just add another thing with that? Part of that grant and study for that was based on the bus traffic flow, which has altered, and the school did alter that, and now it's altered even more so now that the town has allowed an egress onto Little Plains for bus route travel.
Actually, it was safe routes to school, so it was all pedestrian, bicycle.
Which one, that the town just did?
Now, the one we did there.
The safe routes to school, how far down Pine? Is it the whole of Pine? I mean, if Cameron Street came out and you made from Cameron Street to Meeting House two-way, does that stop? Does that help with the safe route? Again, I was not in this. I don't know, but I mean, I know that. I mean, getting out, it's coming back. I know. I can see that. I'm just
It changes the plan, so we should discuss it.
So it's all.
But then you'd be back to the bus factor of changing your bus routes, and they certainly have changed. They're going out of 2 streets now.
Actually, and if you actually had two-way street, it would help that traffic. Actually, the school has asked if we could make it two-way again because it would help.
School
their
has
flow.
asked?
Well, people asked. But, instead of sending them all to Hampton Road, that was why they begged to get access to Little Plains because they all had to go right onto, or if they weren't in the circle. So sometimes they were coming around the back and going on to Pine.
When I attended the meeting where they came and presented at the, with Joe McLaughlin, at the planning board and ZBA for that, they wanted that exit to Little Plains, to Rich's point, and I guess the point is there's more truck traffic going bus traffic exiting on Little Plains, which frees up and makes a two-way street even more palatable, in my view. But again, I'm not a traffic engineer. I just think your idea, Gary, to bound it from Hampton Road to Meeting House Lane and Main Street to Pine is a good start. Right now, it's a chaotic experience for most people there. And I see head shaking in the audience, so.
And again, we started with a traffic study, but it didn't go anywhere. It was
Right. And
beginning, and then nothing happened.
But I think we're at a point now where we, at our next meeting, should move forward with something, because we have not done that.
I think that's a good idea. So Gary, what you're saying, coupled also with what Rob Coburn had to say earlier tonight during public comment, sorry to put you on the spot, Trustee, but would you be willing to kind of help us undergo a traffic safety parking study, just so we can really, not even a study, but we want to get this moving. And this is a good start, but I think we obviously need to take the next step. We've discussed this a few times at the Planning Commission, and I think you'd be a great person to lead the charge. Rob, maybe you want to jump in and help us too, but
Rob always
this is
jumps
exactly,
in.
I mean, we need to, enough's enough.
Rather
So.
easily.
Right.
So I am already on the Traffic Safety Committee along with, so I would be happy to do that.
I think that'd be great. So,
VHB did some preliminary work. They did that last parking lot too I was looking at. We could contact them to come in and talk to them. We also deal with Nelson and Pope on that, but we should probably bring an engineer in and let's talk about it and get the parameters. At that point, we could, once we got our idea set, we could include the school as well. And based on that, then we could approach back to Albany and say, we thought it was a mistake, or we want to alter, et cetera. So.
But for the record, we don't want to hurt the tree. None of us want to hurt the tree.
right. I think it is time to bring an engineer in. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
That's very helpful.
Thanks for moving forward.
Okay, my problem. No problem. Okay, let's.
Just want to make one comment, which is the walk to school, I think, predated Cinderella. I mean, Cinderella may have been in the works. And everybody loves Cinderella, including us, but even the noise at 4 in the morning. But that's okay. But it's just, the other thing is, a lot of people on Cameron Street are older. And how would an emergency vehicle get in there?
They wouldn't.
In it, with any of these situations. Pine Street, granted the ambulance barn is moving. But I don't know, they would have to come through that parking lot that's talked about on Oak and Wall Street, which I guess they could. One time, actually, then I'll go. There was a police car coming the wrong way, and I was approaching it with my then 84-year-old husband, at one way on Cameron at that stop sign, and I almost got head on by a police car. It was last summer that was trying to get around Fellingham's to a problem that was occurring near the silversmith shop. So, there's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Christine.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this particular topic, or any other board members that would like to make any comment?
No.
Okay. So typically, according to the public session agenda, we'll move to suggested resolutions. However, given the audience that we have here today, to keep this a bit more interesting, at first, I'd like to move to discussion items that I think we'd like to hear today. So we'll go to discussion items, and then we'll move to resolutions. So the first discussion item is the Southampton Soccer Club.
We have a letter from the Southampton Soccer Club. Their fall soccer season is fast approaching, and practice game schedules are upon us. The club has grown to over 350 students. They anticipate the need for fields to be on Wednesdays from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. for practices, and Saturdays and Sundays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. for games. They have certificates of insurance, and they'd like to thank in advance the board giving consideration of using the fields for soccer beginning the week of September 2nd and continuing throughout the fall season until the third week of November. It is something we typically do, so I don't know if there's any discussion around this.
And just as a reminder, that October 26th date, I believe it is when the antique car show rally will be going on, and the soccer club knows it and has agreed to make that an away game, so there's no conflict.
That's the first time we're doing that, right? That's an inaugural, yeah.
So if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to permit the Southampton Soccer Club to use the fields at Downs Family Park for a period of September 2nd throughout the fall season until the third week of November.
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Next discussion item is the Southampton Hospital Employee Party at Cooper's Beach, September 18th, 2019.
Okay. For the past 15 years, the Emergency Department has been holding a post-Labor Day gathering for their employees and family at Cooper's Beach. We would like to do the same again on a Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. It's from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And approximately 70 people. The event will be catered by Catina's. They will provide insurance certificates to indemnify the Southampton Village. In the past, they've paid a village employee to come after the party to clean up the bathrooms. They'd be happy to do that again. And if they need any further information, they can please, they have a number to contact. Again, this is something I think that's been done in the past. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we've done this for quite some time. It was, up until recently, it was the only group we allowed to come in and have a party. But we gave them a lot of latitude because they were the hospital room, emergency room, and so we said it was a nice little payback to them for what they do. 15 years.
The only thing I would add, Russell, is I think we should have just a quick conversation with Ben, who may still be operating the concession stand through the month of September, just to give him a heads up and have him okay it, because he might have some authority over who gets to cater it.
Actually, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. It's a public beach, and if we okay this to be done for that or any purpose, we don't need Ben's approval. He just needs to be notified.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think
we don't need his approval.
I think it's good to coordinate. I think you're right. My understanding is that once the fall comes, I don't think he's staying open past.
Well, he's been thinking about it, which is fine.
Right.
But, I mean, but he knows full well that he's the contractor, so it's the mercy of the village, and this is village property.
But I think communication is important.
I think communication is great, and I think we should definitely let them know that this is also a Wednesday night. I don't know how many people are going to be going down on Wednesday night to be at Cooper's other than
No one.
the hospital.
Right.
I think if he wants to do it on the weekend,
Wednesday,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think communication is good.
Okay. So,
So,
yeah, so I'll entertain, right, okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, we'll keep it moving here. Little Lucy's Pet Parade, October 26, 2019.
I'm going to let you give that one.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is done every year. It is Saturday, October 26th. It is from 1 to 4 p.m. The only difference is in the past 2 years, I think it was, we actually moved it over to start at the park because she has such a huge turnout, and it was a bit of a safety issue, and our code enforcement suggested that we move it over. So they actually now start and stop at Agawam Park. It's a very big event. It's very well attended. I believe the mayor is going to be one of the judges this year as well, and it's a great event. So we've done it every year. There haven't been any issues. It's very well coordinated with our police and our code enforcement.
We got a lot going on that day, right? That's the day of the
We kept the dog
Beat car show, too,
Kids
so.
to Sunday.
Oh, so yes, so
The kids we pushed. The dogs we left. Whatever.
so they go clear. Yeah. So then, as you'll just note the route that they do cross, and we have a crossing guard there to help them because people and the doggies all cross back and forth and then end up coming back to Agawam Park. So there are, as noted, those areas, and that is coordinated with the police department and code enforcement.
Thank you, Julie.
All right.
Russell?
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to permit Little Lucy's Pet Parade on October 26th from 1 to 4 p.m.
So moved?
Second? All in favor?
Aye. Number 4, Bicycle Shows USA, September 14th, 2019.
This is me again.
Yes, it's
So bicycle shows, this is also an annual event. Chief is here, so he can also speak to the bike events when they take place. We are always notified. Technically, they are moving, so it's not really, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, it's not something that we normally ever say they can't do because it is moving.
They're moving through and using public streets.
They're using public
roads.
streets.
They don't need our approval to do that.
They don't need our
unless they're
approval, but
using
they
our
do always
services.
ask. They always provide us with a certificate of insurance, and we always keep it on the calendar so that everyone is aware that it is happening at this time. It starts, a lot of these races start from Manhattan and work their way out, so that's why they put a long period of time because they're all coming. It's not a race, it's a tour.
So he's coming at different stages and times during the course of the day.
Yeah. And again, we've done this, they do this every year.
So this really is not something that we take, Wayne, it's not something we take an action on? This is really more of a
I think
notification?
they've asked for the permission and
Yeah.
we'll give it to them, and
Great.
they're indemnifying us and insuring against any harm. So.
And they also get the
They're
same
not
from
asking
the
us for
town
any
as well.
police coverage or any
No.
road or anything, like traffic.
No.
Entertain a motion to permit Bicycle Shows USA the ride to Montauk on Saturday, September 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 5, assistance for Shinnecock Powwow.
Hey, this is something that the village has been providing going back almost 20 years. I did some research on this. They borrow, the reservation borrows from Southampton Public Schools a set of bleachers. However, the school district doesn't own any equipment that is hefty enough to move it to the reservation in time for the powwow. We have extended this courtesy to them in the past, and they again are asking this year if we would do the same.
Thank you, Russell. I think it's great we do this, so thanks for arranging it.
So entertain a motion.
Just a cost consideration, do we perform this during the day or after hours?
We
Is
perform it
this-
during the day, and it takes a crew a good portion of the day to do this
Okay,
in our equipment.
all right.
That's a matter of record.
I just wanted to understand that.
No, that's good, because I asked the same question. When's it done? What's it costing?
It's a good question.
And I was told that it's done during the business day. and
Okay,
it
good.
dedicates a crew, so there is, so it's not overtime, but a good portion, there's a bunch of our crew being dedicated to this.
Good cause, fun event.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think, in the future, we could potentially, at this late date, it seems as though an alternate plan might be difficult, but I think we could look into things in the future, because it is a little bit disjointed that they're not our bleachers and it's not our event, and it's, a lot of those types of things.
It was kind of a wink-wink handshake agreement I started a long time ago and
Yes.
just continued through. A little formality might not be out of
Correct.
order here for this.
So, entertain a motion allowing village employees to use village equipment to move bleachers from Southampton schools to the Shinnecock Indian Reservation and return them prior and after the annual Shinnecock powwow. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, Suffolk Share.
Okay. I thought it was important to have the board get an update, and I'm going to let Mayor Warren, speak on this a little. We had 2 people from the county. We had Legislator Fleming and Ed Moulton, I believe his name is, who is the head of Suffolk County Shared Services Initiative, come and make a presentation to the mayor this past week. They talked about how the program has changed over time. I know that when it was first introduced in 2017, it was scheduled to be part of a mandate by the governor, which seemed to potentially take away some home rule from local municipalities such as villages. The village board here, along with most villages throughout the state, opposed that plan. However, it has been re-energized, and it is a completely voluntary program. So if you participate, you can participate once or every day or as much as you'd like or not like. And then I'll kind of turn it over a little bit to Mayor Warren to talk about some of the things that you found interesting in the meeting.
Thank you, Russell. So again, to reiterate, this is a program called Shared Services. The point of this is that there's a number of villages, towns, municipalities, and other entities across Suffolk County that are likely doing the same things that we're doing and need the same resources that Southampton Village needs. So the beauty of this is that we can reach out to Shared Services and they have a whole network of other villages that are in the same situation that we are. It's not just other villages, it's other municipalities. I believe it could be something like the library, it could be something like a school district. So in essence, we could reach out to them and we can say, we need assistance with anything, and not only might they have services for us, but we can work together to get better pricing because we can essentially buy in bulk or have better purchasing power. So this is a great program which is completely voluntary, and we can opt in when we'd like to. The other thing that they've introduced is that there is grant money available. So they will reinforce this with giving us grant money for specific services. So I had asked for a couple things, just right off the bat, but there's plenty of services. For example, we're just trying to store some paper files that we have in the village. And we understand that other villages are asking for this, and other villages actually have space for us. So we can potentially even engage in that if we want to on a voluntary basis. I also said, we don't have, there's SAT prep in Bridgehampton, but there's nothing in Southampton Village. Could you help us out with this? So these are things that they're looking out and going to get back to us on. And if anyone has any ideas, you're welcome to bring it up to us. You can email or call us about it. But this is something that we're looking forward to utilizing so we can both save money and get grant money to work in this program. So we hope to use this as much as possible.
Well, the other thing I'd like to add is that if, for the sake of argument, you are looking to move forward with some sort of a capital project and another municipality with minor, changes or infrastructure, and you join with another municipality and share that service, the cost of the expansion could get paid for by this grant, so that there's actually no cost by, for the sake of argument, joining with another municipality on a capital project and sharing that service. So in essence, sometimes that's difficult to find, but sometimes it isn't, and you find something. So there's a way where you can actually expand a service at no cost because essentially you'd be reimbursed.
What would be, for instance, for that, like a
one that's a little difficult, and I know sometimes it's touchy, but it's the easiest one to think of is gas. For the sake of argument, if you needed to upgrade your own fuel pumps, and the school district was also looking to do an upgrade, if you did one upgrade and shared the service and found one location that worked for both, that entire project could get paid for.
So it would be a shared location. It wouldn't like we would get money or grant money to fix our facility and the school to fix their facility. You'd have to combine.
Or fix them both and allow, for purposes of economy, for both to use it, so that they could use ours, we could use theirs. So that's an instance where you don't have to necessarily get rid of our own and go to the school district, or they have to get rid of theirs and come to us, but giving them the ability to either one of us use it, that would work.
But in July, Steve Ballone announced that PS&G and LIPA have joined the shared services fold. And with that, they're going to give each municipality a free energy assessment. I'm like, that sounds good. And if we can get less expensive electricity, that's great. And if we can get a cheaper price for solar panels, even better. So it makes sense if it's large scale and efficient.
One of the areas that's very difficult, and it's probably worth mentioning, is when you think about services and things that we perform with our own employees, and then you involve another municipality with their employees, you get into a situation of, are you taking union work away from your employees? What's the pay scale? How do you repay? So there's where there's a lot of sticking points when it involves labor. When it involves a capital project and sharing equipment or sharing,
like purchase agreements, supplies like a gas, or even
any of those, right?
But like papers, or anything like that.
Any of that.
Some joint.
Correct. That's where it's very easy, very smooth to do. And there's a website. You don't even necessarily, on some of the common items, call. You go on the website and say, I'm looking for this, and boom, someone says, hey, look, we got a great price over here. Or
kind of like Craigslist.
Yeah. So it's almost like it is almost like a Craigslist of municipalities, mainly for true municipal purposes only, though.
Of course.
Yes.
Good little footnote. Way to go.
Yes.
Okay, so the next discussion item is
Before you go further, so in 2017, the village actually adopted a resolution authorizing the village to participate. What I would suggest is, in light of the amendments, and probably another way of supporting what the county has done in these amendments, you could adopt another resolution basically ratifying and affirming that your participation in this. And I think I forwarded a resolution to you on that.
Yeah, and the only reason I hesitate is because essentially, did you go to the meeting the other day?
I tuned in on
Right.
the video.
So essentially,
They're all proposed still, too.
right. Essentially, by being a municipality, you have the right to just participate, and it's not,
I'm just saying that the village already did a resolution in 2017 to opt in and participate. It wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Again, your opting in is your choice.
Okay. All right. So we'll entertain a motion to reaffirm the village's 2017 resolution to opt in to Suffolk Shared Services.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Wayne.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Is there any other comments? Okay. So the next item is storefront aesthetics, and this is a discussion item regarding some legislation that we'd like to pass. I wanted to extend a thank you to Trustee Parrish, who took the lead on this, along with the rest of our board and with Wayne. There is a number of things going on in our village, particularly on Job's Lane, where we've been getting commentary from merchants and store owners and community members that Job's Lane is not looking the way it should be, and it's not just Job's Lane, it's other streets as well. And we would like to have a aesthetically pleasing, good-looking, vibrant village. And there's a number of things that we need to do in order to get to that point. But one small step that we can take is passing a resolution requiring upkeep. That includes window displays, it includes courtyards, and it includes other parts of the village. And there's other municipalities, not just in New York State, but across the country, such as Palm Beach, that will engage in this type of practice. We think it's a good one. I can let Wayne or Russell give us a little bit of background, but again, I wanted to thank Trustee Parrish for this, and in particular, I do have a meeting with the owner of the courtyard on Job's Lane, and I'd like to find out exactly why that particular courtyard is in the shape that it's in. So I'm really looking forward to that meeting tomorrow. But in the meantime, we can get prepared in order to essentially mandate that there's some basic upkeep as well as some other details. So I'd love maybe Wayne or Russell to kind of take this from here to kind of give us some more background specifically as far as what we're looking to do.
Can I just ask one thing quick before they get into lawyer speak? Do we get any feedback from other store owners? Like I know we discussed about either you or somebody on the board was going to get some feedback from the vacant store owners as to why, perhaps. I mean, have we? I know that was a concern of going that route of incentivizing people before we mandate them to do so. So I guess that wasn't successful, or nobody really.
I may be able to speak to that.
Is that part of what you can do, Counselor?
Yes. So this issue of vacant storefronts is not something that's unique to Southampton, and the Board of Trustees has been exploring this, and there's been informational meetings trying to get the community out, and so there's been some information gathering to date, and some of the things that have come out are the aesthetics. Some, the other extreme is, and this is a debate that's been happening in New York City, is whether there should be a vacancy tax or a registration fee or things of that sort, which is really the stronger approach where people are trying to force landlords to participate. And so part of this, in other communities, and a variety of different communities, have also engaged consultants and taken on years of study to try to figure out what are the solutions, what are the concerns, and so on. And I think that this board will continue to reach out to the community to do that. But some of the things you can do, as the mayor just indicated, is some baby steps. And so one of them is the complaints that are heard is that the stores that are vacant, the storefronts, are not conducive or visually pleasing, and it is impacting, negatively on both the surrounding businesses as well as the aesthetic that this community has expected for many years. So with Trustee Parrish and the mayor's input early on, I went back, did a little exploration as to what communities have done, not only here in New York and Long Island, but also in other states. And looked at a variety of approaches, but the first one was the aesthetics, and the issue there is to make sure that the empty storefronts, they provide some screening that might be aesthetically pleasing, artistic, and this is also where the program that has been developed in other places, we're promoting artwork, which you do see in some of our storefronts, and some of the vacant have attempted to do that, and it's not all of them. So this legislation sort of modeled after some of the approach on that part alone, and it's only aesthetics, and what it would say is if there's a vacant storefront and it's for a certain period of time, they're required to provide this window screening or window display to bring the aesthetics, at least for the time that it remains vacant. That being that approach, the question was, well, is this a solution? But the other part of it is how do you get the community's input? And so this is the suggestion here is, and there probably would be many questions as to how, where, and how this applies, but I think that the point of this would be to put this out there as a starting point for a discussion, get the community's input as a starting point. And I think this legislation will allow you to do that. I'm not saying that you may find out after you get community input that is not the step you want to take, or that you might want to take a different step, a more stringent step that other communities have done, or not. And so this is looked as only a minor first step, but it goes towards aesthetics.
Well, 2 points, if I may, just since I like the small step idea. However, there's a part in here, 1086, we talk about penalties for offenses and enforcement. Aesthetically pleasing is a rather subjective term. And we have penalties here of $750 up to $3,000.
The term is, just so you know, it's not aesthetically pleasing. There's standards for screening.
So, okay, so there are strict standards in here.
Yeah, and it leaves a lot of what you put on the screening up to the store owner.
And the reason because there was a gentleman some years ago in protest, if you will, for a decision on his construction, painted his house as the American flag. Now, there was a good portion, quite honestly, of the community thought that was a cool thing, and then of course there was another portion that thought that was an abomination. So that's what I think of when I think about what's aesthetic. What are the standards for aesthetics in the window?
So, Rich, to build upon something that I think came up quite a bit before the election, when some of the roundtable discussions that we had, where people were mentioning that came up and spoke about doing window dressings or some type of screening for vacant stores. So Wayne did go look into Palm Beach, Cambridge, and I think, was there someplace also in Michigan?
Well, not only Michigan, but more locally, there's some villages throughout New York State. I have a whole file on.
And then also to what Jesse did with making the connection with the Southampton Arts Center, just sort of building upon that to get something going where we're saying, hey, look, you know what, there are going to be vacant stores. We know that. Unfortunately, right now, we have not come up with a way to start really looking at that, but this is a way to start to say, we'd love you to be on board with making the optics of this village pleasing. I think that's just a simple start.
No, I get it, and we've actually proposed it in the past some years ago, as Wayne was alluding to. However, now we actually got penalties and enforcement, so that's it's a touchy area. If somebody doesn't have something in their window, I mean, you're a business owner, you own property in the village, your family owns property, if there's a time limit on when somebody can re-rent their store, and if they don't get something in place in time, and all of a sudden there's a $750 fine, I mean, that's what the
These are the
enforcement
things
part.
that we have to touch base on and really put our heads together.
Well, there's only the fine if they don't put it in
They
the
don't put anything
window.
in there.
If they have something in the window, then,
Right.
there won't be the fine. And I mean, using either the art from the Southampton, Southampton Cultural or Arts Association,
Or they
or
put
the
their own art in.
I mean, they can put their own, or possibly
Artists.
put their own, or Mary Godfrey, I know from when she worked at Morris Studios, wonderful photographs and stuff of Southampton Village and back in the heyday, and blowing that up for putting it in and stuff could be used as well. So there are many options that would, in my mind, would be a lot less than the $750 or $3,000 fine for them to do once you get to a period of unrented space.
And Rich, particularly now in the middle of summer, when we've got other villages, and we said this is not a issue unique to Southampton, but it is unique to Southampton in the summer when we've got other villages such as East Hampton that have 0 vacancies. And I had a meeting with the mayor of Sag Harbor this morning, and they are they're so booming right now. They don't have enough parking, and people are complaining it's too vibrant.
Right. It's a nice problem to have.
Right. So that's the situation. And then simultaneously, this afternoon, I had a meeting with a merchant on Job's Lane, and she's been in business for about 5 years, and she said this is by far and away the worst summer she's had in 5 years. Merchants on Main Street are actually saying they're kind of up this year, but she actually credits all of the vacancies and the aesthetics of Job's Lane, and people don't want to go there. And I said, well, how much are you down? $100, $1,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? She said, closer to $100,000 we're down because no one wants to go on Job's Lane anymore. So we're talking a $750 to $3,000 fine for these landlords who are essentially misbehaving, and they're costing other people their livelihood. So if you weigh that, in my opinion, this is a very small ask when you're now affecting not just our village, but the livelihood of other merchants in our village. And these are people who live in the village, who vote in the village, and they believe that Job's Lane is on the decline, and I think as a board we really need to kind of put our heads together to make sure that Job's Lane, which was once the centerpiece of our downtown, returns to that. So again, this is just a baby step, as Wayne said, but I think it's a good discussion item and a step in the right direction. And as we've discussed before, we've got organizations like the Art Center who are willing to really help us out here and curate art, or like Palm Beach, where they have their historic maps in the windows, and they put that together. So I'm happy that this is on the table, and I'm hoping that we get our merchants and others to step in here and give us their opinions, positive or negative.
No, definitely. No, it's worthy of putting a public hearing, no doubt.
So I don't know if anyone in the audience tonight has any comments, or any other members of our board, but we can make this available as well. And we're open to any comments and feedback.
I think that best if the public puts their comments on the record when we have a
Make a public hearing.
If somebody here wants to speak.
Oh, yeah, they can speak,
right now.
but we'll schedule a public hearing starting on it.
Okay.
One person.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Christine. I was just going to say, I wondered in the last couple of years, since the advent of the people soliciting from storefronts,
Yep.
I won't get more specific than that, but because to me, I kind of avoid walking by those stores, and I just wondered if you might incorporate something.
It was dealt with
about-
yesterday.
Well, oh, you already did something, a resolution or something?
Well,
I'm just
once someone...
because I would think as part of,
We amended the law to cover.
people just want to enjoy it, they
Actually,
don't want to be pressured.
We did actually amend the law. Actually, yeah, Counselor, would you elaborate on how we did
Well, as
amend
far
it?
as soliciting and peddling, and other than being on their own property, they can't do it out on the public street. So that's in the code, and that's an enforcement question. Is if you see that happening, then our police department should be informed.
So yesterday, I happened to be walking on Job's Lane, and I had received complaints about it, and sure enough, someone came out and tried to right onto the
Solicit
sidewalk. Actually, I was with my
Solicited on the
wife.
street?
I was with my wife, so she was the client that they were looking for. They would, and I not only mentioned that was wrong, I happened to see Angel down the street, and so Angel went over, and of course he didn't witness it, but reinforced what is permitted and not permitted.
And what's worth mentioning, too, as I remember when this discussion came out, is that if they're in the confinements of their door jam, if they're in their store, that is their property, if they want to mention or solicit in a particular way, they're allowed to. The law protects them within certain things. This law applies to the second they're on the public sidewalk outside of the confinements of their store and their property. That's when the law applies, and you can actually make a complaint.
Counselor, I thought we had put in an express request that they could not be hawking even if they were standing on their doorstep.
Well, that is, I think it could go a little further if they're standing in their doorstep and hawking out the
Yeah.
door. I think the law would apply.
Yeah.
But,
Walking.
yeah.
Yep.
But again, I think what Russell has told you is that people that observe this, let our code enforcement know, and one is education and two is enforcement.
I mean, I think that's a large deterrent, quite honestly, too, as you're talking about outside of the empty stores. But you're right. I've heard people specifically avoid that side of Job's Lane
Both
to
sides
avoid
now.
that potential conflict. And there's only one this year, right? We had two last year. I think there's
No,
only one
there's
in
two.
Southfield.
There's still two. And
In the same
you're
spot? The
absolutely
same
right.
two? The same two
Across the
spots?
street from each other virtually. And
Oh, okay.
it's
No, there's one on Main Street.
highly unpleasant.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, then there you go. I think that's a large.
I'm Alan McFarland. I live at the most western spot in the village, 26 Tuckahoe Lane. In my spare time, I've agreed to serve on the planning board, which doesn't plan, as Wayne knows I discuss all the time. We do a few things. Assigned to the planning board of now 4, we lost, I gather we've lost tennis courts as one of our jurisdictions. They will sort of happen more or less automatically. Of the 4 things left, one is the village business district. So let me give you 3 quick observations, not as a citizen, but as a member of, which I was till through June of last year, of the planning board. We have a law that you need to look at if you do this. Wayne is familiar with all the details. On Job's Lane, which, as you know, was originally down to a swamp, was filled with car agencies, which has been converted into stores, if you go back historically. Has had a number of different merchants there over the years whose merchandise has changed for people to use. All of that went into decisions that we make when it involves businesses there, businesses moving. The village board dealt a while ago with people putting a store in. I think it was some fancy ladies from out west that were going to have some special style. Everybody was going to mob it. There are issues when merchants come that the village deals with. The village law was studied for years, and I don't know why I know about that. I went to all the hearings that the planning board rail, and that the Southampton Association went into great length to do all sort of secret revisions. In over 8 or 9 years, there are studies, copies of them are in Julie's office if you want to look them, of what was done about village planning district. Everything from promoting housing on the top of all the buildings if you ever can, major priority in enabling it. Access to the parking lots in the back, major priority, and there are plenty of walkthroughs now that are official. And the specifications went in based on planners that deal with people in municipalities walking around, maybe buying things. It's psychiatry, as far as I can tell. The hearings were here, experts came, dealing with Rodeo Drive and Palm Beach, and were one of the top, this is 8 or 9 years ago, one of the top 5 municipalities on a per square foot at the peak of the season level, which our mayor must know a great deal about. So we all know the probably different type of merchandising. The board, I'm an appellate board. I don't create, I don't plan. I get appeals from decisions based on the village regulations that are governed by the people that have jurisdiction, such as what it looks like, I guess, which is the ARB. Changes in construction, which goes, if the building inspector doesn't do it right, it's appealed to the ZBA. And we get issues that relate, specified in the law, things like traffic and all sorts of things. We are informed now, which you need to keep your eye on, anything over 12 feet, which isn't, let's say it's about that, off the street, is a bad idea to have anything go off for merchandising, for businesses, for all sorts of purposes. You maybe have 2 entrances or something. ADA, major issue for access. We have to deal with all these buildings. Keep in mind, Job's Lane is a bad ADA street. They go up and down. The old Cole Alexander store, it's a historic building. You can't get in it for an ADA purpose. It's stairs that the owners can hardly use. ADA is a big issue on the street, up and down the whole deal. I'm giving you this as a appellate matter that will come. These are issues that you're going to have to deal with. Uses were discussed at great length. For planning boards, which we don't do, but other municipalities do when they have a full jurisdiction or in the city, banks are bad. Real estate offices are bad to have on the street for the type of traffic that we want to have come for all those purposes. Drugstores, believe it or not, are bad. And goodness knows we're a growth industry of drugstores here. And I forget, there's a couple that are really bad ideas. We got 11 banks, and now we're building more. There's a planning matter, which is one of the few areas that this board that I agreed to help Roy on a while ago is supposed to deal with in making reasonable decisions when there are applications that have opposition. So when you do this, you might want to go look at the village code. It is very specific. It was put in by the planning board at great length. Simi led it, I think. Memory's a little hazy sometimes, but it went on for hours. The studies. I have copies for some reason, and I was living on Ram Island most of the time, outside the village, about that thick. All sorts of copies. So pay attention to it, because if you don't change other parts of the village law and put this in, council will have a big headache, because he's going to have to he's going to line it up. So you may want to change things to do things. So I just give it to you as a caution before the public gets in and everybody has issues of how things look or don't look. The art idea is sensational. There are people that want to go back to a shield. It was a guy to remember. She had the thrift store, and that was a great. Then she moved back to the Gouldy Electric Shop, where now the hospital does it. In Heart of the Hamptons, who may get evicted, I'm told, from the church, may want to do thrift shops in one of them. If it's vacant, why not let the guy sell stuff there and have people come by? There's a lot of ideas that will coalesce, but look at the rest of the village code, because it was a very specific thing that was put in with all these features. And if somebody comes in and follows that code, more or less, architect, more or less exactly, it's a real burden for someone who's just mad. And everybody gets mad. It's a village, you guys. It happens all the time. And they follow the law just as specifically as they can. Then you decide, okay, when do you override it? So bear in mind, I haven't read the law. I didn't know we were going to discuss it tonight. I would have gotten a sneak preview or something like that and done more homework for you. And the only other thing is, you got to take some action. The board I'm on has no chairman and only 4 members legally. So we act in good faith. But until the things become official, if we make decisions, someone may get mad and say you weren't properly constituted or something. The council will have to do it. But we're not enabled, which we're supposed to be, by whatever you want to do every July 1st. And the code is very specific. In fact, the code says we should have vice chairman, which we don't have for any of the boards. So just please get to it, because when we meet, we have the preamble is we're probably not fully authorized.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to, and Alan, just for your own purpose, you are duly constituted and you are properly acting. But
we can motion to enable something to act in effect as the presider. I can't hear you.
In any case, we'll talk about that. My suggestion, Mr. Mayor, is if you're going to move on this proposed local law, is take perhaps an unusual step. By law, all you're required to do is publish this in the newspaper. My suggestion is that you have some outreach to all the businesses and make them aware of this. somehow, somewhere, in addition to the website. And I know Julie knows the group of people that we're talking about, or businesses. And two is, my suggestion is, this is not a zoning code matter, but nonetheless, my recommendation is that we send it to the Planning Commission and the Planning Board for their input. Even though this is only about vacant storefronts, it's not about new construction or any alteration of the buildings that exist, other than, screen coverings or whatever, or art display within the existing storefront windows. So, nonetheless, it wouldn't hurt to get everybody's input. So
I think that's a good idea. So, Russell, we should send this to the Planning Board and the Planning Commission. Yep. And then, Julie, when we do have our meeting, I think we should email the Chamber of Commerce and have them do an email blast so that all of the merchants know that we're going to have this meeting, so they can all be here, or hope they can be here for that meeting.
Fine, that's a week before.
That's great. Yeah.
And Wayne and Russell, to confirm, do we need any next steps here, or are we ready to go?
Yeah, you have a resolution in your package that would authorize Russell to publish a notice of public hearing for your first meeting in September, and that allows it to be properly noticed in the paper for the requisite 10 days before the hearing.
Okay. Very good. So we'll get to that as soon as we get to resolutions.
We can do it right now.
Okay, sounds good.
So entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing, authorize the village administrator to publish and post a local law, new chapter 108, vacant buildings, for Thursday, September 12th, 2019, at 6 p.m. prevailing time.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So lastly, number 8 on discussion items, we have village committees, and I'll try to make this quickly since it's just a discussion item at the moment, but our board has discussed creating some committees. We already have quite a few, but we have quite a few community members who would like to go help us address some of the opportunities and issues in the village. And so just to put this out there, some of the new committees that we'll be creating, where we will engage some of the community members like Rob Coburn, who was here earlier today, include committees such as the Clean Water, Lake Agawam Committee, the Budget and Finance Committee, an Infrastructure Committee, and a Sports and Recreation Committee. We have been very fortunate to have a very talented village and have had an outpouring of support and volunteerism from our community members, so we want to put our community to work. Those who are interested in volunteering and helping us, we would like to engage them as much as possible. So that's just a bit of a sampling of what we'd like to do, those 4 committees, and they will join us. And so those who are watching or listening tonight, please do email us if you're interested in joining any of those committees. We already have had a lot of interest, but we would like to get even more and engage our residents as much as possible.
Mayor, how many total were there?
Right now, there's 4.
Okay, thank you.
But we can add or subtract depending on what we'd like.
Can you just repeat them one more time? Thank you.
So number 1 is the Clean Water / Lake Agawam Committee. We wanted to include clean water because there's other water bodies as well that we can work on, such as Old Town Pond, the Budget and Finance Committee, Infrastructure Committee, and Sports and Recreation. So I don't know if there's anything else to add, Russell, or if we should continue to move on.
No, I think the other thing that's important is that the board speak about kind of the makeup of how we want the board, made up, depending on which one, whether we want to limit the size or not. Those are the types of decisions prior to us actually formally creating them. That I think if you shared those, anybody has thoughts on those or people that you'd like to nominate, I think that's an important aspect of moving forward in establishing them.
It might be helpful to restate the committees that we do have already. We do have a senior citizen, affirmative action youth committee. We have a village business improvement district committee, if I got that right, Mark.
Actually, yeah, if you got me on what
So
you...
we have Affirmative Action Committee, Americans with Disability Act Committee, Beautification Committee, which is kind of a combination of beautification and village improvement, Christmas Decorations Committee, Youth and Senior Citizens Affairs Committee, think those are the main ones.
And I do think it's important if people are interested in those committees as well, to reach out to the village. Some of them are fairly active, some are not quite as active, and again, I think it's a reminder sometimes of what committees we have may get people to say, oh wow, I forgot about that, let me join in. So
There's a lot of excitement, which is really good.
right. One of the things you had mentioned, Mayor, was that you'd like to get the high school involved in your
Exactly.
especially in this sports and recreation. But again, talk about the fact that we have a youth organization as well. So when we reach out to the schools, we should mention kind of all of them, and that's a great point, Trustee Allen.
I think I want to also point out there's also some others that have been created by statute. Your Planning Commission is an advisory committee to the board. You have the Commission on the Arts, who's also advisory. So you have some that were statutorily created and other by resolution of this board. One of the most important things that always comes up through time is the structure, and that's what Russell and I have talked about, is how many members and what are their duties and so on, and what things they have to be mindful as well, being an advisory committee of the village. They are advisory to this board. And I know in other places they start, especially if you created like a citizens advisory committee, they sort of lose sight of what their direct authorization was and start doing other things above and beyond that. So we always want to do that so these committees also will survive, whether they're here this year, 5 years from now, and so on. So they're always there. They know what their duties and everything else. So that's,
and a risk management aspect of it is that it is very important that we bring people together to understand that because we have named a particular person to be on a committee, they are in some fashion acting on behalf of the village. So as long as they understand that what their parameters are, that this is the board that they're advisory to, that's important, because you can run into some liabilities. They start, I'll say, going to the press and saying what their beliefs are and so forth. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys mentioned
I also think that with this board's actions and formalize them, make it serious, that their positions are going to be thought of as being important to this board and their task at hand. And there is official recognition for that. And so by doing that with a resolution with the format, so that they know they have to meet regularly. So I know there's been some committees and all of a sudden they lose their momentum. And then nothing happens, and everybody goes, well, wait a minute, whatever happened to that committee, and we rejuvenate them or whatever. But so I think Russell and I can work on those, and this is the direction, and I'm assuming this board, if you have any input, to give to Russell or I, and then we can have that ready for your meeting on the 20th as far as the formal adoption of what these are, and then the next step for the board would be get all the people that want to volunteer for those positions.
Our water bodies are so important, and I'm glad we're expanding it, because we are basically 7 square miles, of which 2 miles are water. But we also had a SAVE committee / environmental committee, and I think we thought about creating a subset within the Planning Commission. I don't think it really worked well. I think we need to kind of revisit that.
Yeah.
But a number of, and I don't know if that was included in the infrastructure. It could easily be, as we think about zero carbon footprints and solar and all that. But that's just something, the only thing that comes to mind.
No, right, no, save it, because we started that, and I actually chaired that, and that's why that's where the banning the reusable plastic bags came from.
Right.
From that committee, and the balloon, all that, stuff. There are a lot of things that came about it, but when it began, again, like as the counselor said, it had it was well attended by members, a lot of ideas, and then in time, people moved out of the area, so we just kind of lost membership on committees. But there's still many that are part of, I know what's been speaking to you, were originally part of that SAFE committee that I know can come in and tap in. But that's again, we already have that. Yeah, sorry.
So you may want to revisit some of those and see if they're still viable, or do you want to modify them or what as well?
Exactly. I think merging them is a good idea.
whatever is it an easier way legally to do that? I mean, if you already have something done, is it easier to kind of modify that to what we're trying to do?
Well, it depends
than
on
creating a
how
whole
you
new one?
created them in the first place. Like I said, you have a few that were statutorily done, and then you would have to adopt a local law to change that. Others that you've done by resolution, that you have the authority to do, then that would be merely amending it by resolution.
Find those out, and then we can work from there.
All right, so Julie and I will work on
fine,
maybe
just
just a structure. Here they are, here's how they are organized, here's what it would take. You know, obviously, if it's statutorily, you'd have to change the local law. If it's just by resolution, poof.
The lower hanging fruit and the paths of least resistance are the resolution formed ones.
Yes.
Not the statutory.
Yes.
Very good. So in order to keep on continuing here and keep, I believe, the meeting to be as engaging as possible, we will save the resolutions towards the end, and we'll continue to proceed with the agenda. So we'll do the comments from board members. We'll do a second public comment, and then the resolutions. I think between the second public comment and resolutions, maybe we'll take a quick 2 to 5 minute break, and then we can move forward with those and conclude the meeting. So with that said, we'll do comments from board members, and Trustee Yastrzemski, you can kick it off for us.
Well, I don't know. Well, I have nothing more right now other than what we've just been talking about, so I'm good for the moment.
Trustee Allen.
Just two small things. Trustee Polaro and I attended the town's working session on the proposed complex for affordable housing on County Road 39. I thought the town board asked a lot of good questions, but I think the concern all around is, well, first of all, the concerned development company is seeking to put forward an application to create a 60-unit affordable housing structure in that area. And I think it was pretty evident by many of the questions that there's still a concern with regards to density and congestion. Not to mention, I think, our village concern, which is the ingress and egress. And I think that needs to be closely monitored. And I welcome that the concerned development company reaches out to us so that we can better understand that and our residents here. So that's one thing. And of course, Andrew, feel free to add, because we were, I don't know if you...
We were there together.
Yes, we were there together. And we recognize, the need for workforce housing and veteran housing is critical, but that is the busiest corridor out here. I mean, we were told by Tom Neely that 50,000 cars barrel back and forth on County Road 39, and that 7-Eleven is one of the busiest in the entire country. Is it number one? Okay. So, I mean, we just would like to have a little more engagement with that firm, and I'm hopeful that they reach out to it. Russell just stepped out, but I know he had notified them to reach out to us. The second is Trustee Polaro and I had a very nice follow-up meeting with Edwina Von Gall. For those of you who weren't here at the last meeting, I'm sorry.
Trustee Parrish.
Trustee Parrish, I'm so sorry.
They look alike.
I'm so sorry. The two Ps.
a little jealous.
Sorry.
You can tell we're in different colored ties. Just go by that. One
So
red, one blue.
So Edwina is a foremost authority for native planting and avoiding the use of pesticides and fertilizers. And so this morning we met with her, and we were exploring, along with Gary Gillespie, some places in the village which our mayor has encouraged us to do, to pilot a native planting spot, I guess, for lack of a better word. But Edwina told us that native plantings bring back our butterflies, our songbirds, save our waterways, and save on maintenance. So those are kind of nice things to hear. So, and I know you have things to add on that. So, but the other thing I wanted to do is give a special shout out to Trustee Parrish. One of the residents in Hillcrest identified that the playground didn't have any trees. And then when we started looking at the playground down here at Lake Agawam, it has 12 trees, and it's very shaded. So the kids who were going to the playground up in Hillcrest couldn't go there when the sun was beating down in the middle of the day, because the playground structures were sitting on a stove. So I mentioned this to Trustee Parrish, I got that right, and within 24 hours, he and Gary worked out a preliminary plan. I was able to reach back to the residents, and they were very excited that they know this plan is in the works, and I wanted to say thank you for that. And the last thing I'll say is I participated along with the mayor in the Hope for Depression walk, run. This one ran fast. I couldn't keep up with him. He was at the front of the pack. But it was a great event. Thank you, Julie, for creating that awareness for us and helping the village and that organization. Louisa Benton is the executive director, and she said that the depression is the #1 disability in the world, which I didn't know. But I wanted to thank everybody, Audrey Gruss, Arthur Dunham, Louisa Benton, and the many wonderful sponsors, and our Southampton Village Scouts Troop 58. So there you have it. And I know you have a much better time than mine. I'm not telling anybody my time.
It was probably a more painful experience, though, running at that pace. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And by the way, what you said with Edwina von Gaal, there was an article a few days ago in National Geographic about an insect apocalypse. And that's because the herbicides and pesticides are actually killing the good insects that we want, such as bees and butterflies that help pollinate our plants and flowers. And so there's a real concern that our ecosystem is actually being destroyed right now, given some of these harmful pesticides. So it's great that you're doing that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Parrish.
Thank you, Kimberly, for that shout out. And two things quickly. I was at Cooper's Beach on Monday for the sunset sessions Sunday. Sunset sessions. There was a live band there, and I got to be honest, when I walked up the ramp and I came and saw all the people that were sitting there, it was a great feeling that I had. It was so nice to see such a great group of people from all different age brackets, and everybody was enjoying themselves. It was a beautiful night. I saw a lot of people that I knew. Their response was very positive from everybody. And I left there after about a half hour, and I just walked away smiling, really knowing that this is the type of entertainment that we can have. It's something that is so reachable to everybody, and really we have to take advantage of that. And Ben and Lauren really have been stepping up, and I'm really want to shout out to them for coming up with the idea and the village supporting it. And I think it's going to be something that we can build on and do a really spectacular thing with. And to Trustee Allen's point, we had 2 meetings this morning. We are both on the Village Beautification Committee, and we got the chance to spend some time with 2 people with a really wide range of knowledge on everything from aesthetics to native grasses to all sorts. And we're excited about getting that going again and building upon some of the past administration's practices and looking at ways to really bring a lot of our native vegetation into doing some really cool, forward-thinking, and aesthetically pleasing opportunities. So that is it.
Thank you. All right. Next is Trustee Pilara.
Thank you, Mayor. I too was down Sunday night at Cooper's Beach, and it was wonderful and great to see. And Project Vibe did a great job, and the music was fabulous. The people were really enjoying themselves. The food was wonderful. So I encourage anyone to go down on Sunday night from 5 until 8 for live music. And Ben and Lauren do a wonderful job there. So it was great to see. Just with regard to I'll jump back to the enforcement before, but yes, Trustee Allen and I were at the town meeting, very well attended, and I think that there is concern, and it really is the in and out of the area, and making sure that it doesn't become another cut through for workers, for residents, and all of that. So a lot of good was done there. They are looking to do a lot of housing for veterans. Which, and workforce, which again, very well needed. But again, density will be an issue there, and I think that, it will get resolved at some stage, whether it's economically fit for this firm, yet to be seen, depending on the restrictions that are put on that. With regard to enforcement, just a slight anecdote. Angel does a wonderful job. I'm glad he helped you out, Russell, yesterday. He was on top of his game on Sunday when a car I hadn't really been in for a little while. I parked at the beach, and I guess I forgot to put my sticker on. I thought I had put it on the back window and just rolled it down too far, but lo and behold, it was right in my glove compartment. So fine paid. Job well done by Angel, and I thank him for making sure that the people who are there at the beaches do properly have their resident passes on. So
They do. Thank you very much, Trustee Palermo.
absolutely. So that is all.
How much was that fine? How much was the fine?
$100 for not having a beach permit on your.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the additional revenue.
Yes.
That's our surplus.
Actually, I had to stick
That answers your
on the
question from
car.
earlier, Trustee Allen, right? There you go.
There you go.
And the kids in the booth actually help enforce that every day, too, as a matter of fact. They're pretty good at it.
Now, I do want to add, I know you've talked about a lot of staff, and, I know we have pretty much a full month to go. What I'm most impressed with, and as many know, I've worked in several places, the limited number of complaints that I receive or that our office receives, or I think that you receive, for the staff that works at our beaches is amazing, and the compliments that we get are tremendous. And we have a great group of young individuals who work at our beaches and help make our enjoyment when we go down there that much better. So I do want to mention that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. It's really great to see our entire team working really well together and working very hard. So it's amazing to see. So I'm just wanted to thank everybody, and I like, obviously, the direction we're headed in. So it's really good news. So thank you to this board for everyone's hard work. We're going to keep on doing it, and there's lots of good things to come in the future. A few quick things I'd like to kind of announce. We've arranged, and thank you, Julie, for setting it up, a tour of the sewer system at the hospital. I will likely be going down there with Trustee Yastrzemski tomorrow morning, and we're going to see what that system looks like and meet with the team there to find out if there's anything we can do to collaborate with them, hook up into them, because I think that would be a step in the right direction. It's not a long-term solution, but it's something that could bridge us to a system in the future. We discussed they're at 39% capacity, which means they still have 69,000 gallons of wastewater that they can treat per day. So whether that's our business district, or whether that's our school system, or whether that's some homes that we could hook up into that, I think that is a really good direction to go in. And so we'll get back to you with what we see and with any progress that we make, but we're excited to go check that out. Secondly, I just wanted to announce, as many know, the library vote was this past week or so. The library budget did pass, but I'm thinking maybe in the future, the village also, if we're allowed to, can make just an announcement that there is a vote, because it would be great to see a better turnout there in the future. I believe that there was less than 200 people who voted for a approximately $5 million budget. So it's great that we actually had a good relative turnout relative to past elections, but still it'd be great to kind of see a higher turnout, given that that was an election not just for village residents, but also for Tuckahoe and the school district. So would love to see that.
I voted.
Thank you. So did I in that one. Okay, good job, everyone.
I was out of town.
There you go.
I was out of town, but I typically
10% of the vote.
But I do
No.
typically when I'm here.
1%.
So thirdly, we did apply for some DEC New York State grants that had already been in place, but we took a shot and we submitted a grant application for a natural treatment center that we had discussed at our last meeting. Now, the grant that we put in was not complete, but we at least have the ability to update it in the future. The reason it was not complete is because we had only a few days to get it in, when typically you need a few months to do it. But we wanted to open the door and have the ability to update that, and also put the DEC a notice and give them the heads up that this is something we're interested in doing. And so we asked for upwards of $2 million. I don't think we're going to get it, but I do think that this will give some notice to the DEC, who we are looking forward to working with, so that when we put this grant again in the future, that might become a reality. So you never know. We're going to continue to update that grant, but I think it's a good step in the right direction, because there is upwards of $700 million of grant money available in New York State. So we would like to tackle that and to get as much grant money as we can from all the sources that are available. So that's another quick update. I was going to talk about Sundays at Cooper's Beach, but again, give a shout out and thanks to Matt Weeks for putting that together, and Ben, because it was phenomenal. We had people say, we love what we're seeing in Southampton Village, so it was just very exciting to see that. I also attended the SYA event yesterday at the elementary school. Amazing turnout. Again, great to see our community working together and celebrating together. And then just a few other quick things. Again, there will be next Sunday at Cooper's Beach. And then next Wednesday, we also have a great turnout at concerts at the park. This Wednesday, we have Penny Lane Tribute Band, of course, presented by the Southampton Cultural Center. And then this weekend, there's the Silent Disco Dance Party at the SAC. And then on Monday, we have drive-in movies at Cooper's Beach, presented by the Chamber of Commerce, and those are also very well attended. So again, anyone who's watching, it'd be great to see nice attendance. We already have great attendance. So there is so much good stuff going on in the village, and we've continued on in that tradition of having great events and experiences. And hopefully when we add to other committees, such as the Sports and Recreations Committee, we can continue to elevate our already great events that we have. So with that said, that is all I've got for comments from board members, and we can move to second public comment if there is any. So I can open it up to that, so anyone wishing to address the board can come forward. If not, we will either take a quick break or move to resolutions. Okay. Does anyone need a break, or do you want to just keep on powering through this? Okay. All right, let's go wrap this up. So with that said, we will move to suggested resolutions.
I'll entertain a motion resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public session of July 24th, 2019 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the mayor is requesting a motion to approve the following appointments for one-year terms ending June 30th, 2020. Deputy Village Clerk Eileen Musera. Deputy Treasurer Patricia Letterman. Village Assessor William McCoy. Registrar Eileen Musera. Deputy Registrar Michelle Gira.
So moved.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated August 8th, 2019, totaling $249,446.53. Warrant number 6, General Fund, $18,733.36. Warrant number 3, Capital Reserve Fund, and $1,787.67. Warrant number 5, Trust Fund, and the village payroll for the period from July 19th, 2019 to August 1, 2019 be audited and approved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, invoices over $1,000. Absolute Shine, and first the general disbursements. Absolute Shine Auto Spa, $3,200. That's the detailing and complete cleanup for 8 emergency vehicles. Barnwell House of Tires, $3,569.90. That's for 2 police tires and 10 heavy equipment tires. Cass Productions, $2,535. That's a videographer. CDW Government, Inc., $3,096. That's a 3-year subscription for the police department. Chemco Distributors, Inc., $1,610.58. That's chemical cleaning supplies for the fire department, equipment. Coastal Fire Systems, $14,557.98. That's the annual service and calibration for the CAT air compressor and computer program. Corwitz Auto Body, Inc., $2,500. That's impound towing. CSEA employee benefit, $31,008.56. That's dental and vision premiums. Eastern Suffolk BOCES, $4,601. That's the annual service fee for the EAP assistance program. It's up for 107 employees. Antoinette Edwards, $1,040. Minutes for administrative boards. Eileen Toohey, $2,205. Audit and accounting services for the month of July. Epoxy Tech International, $3,611.71. That's 24 2-cal kit prime coats A and B as required for the salt barn. Essentially, it's prime coat paint necessary to do the salt barn. Everguard Surfacing, Inc., $13,895. That's tennis court resurfacing. Firematic Supply Corp., $1,246.08. That's emergency repair for Fire Department Unit 7317's ladder. First Presbyterian Church, $3,000. That's the monthly parking lot rental. Frosty Towel Sales and Marketing, $1,131.35. That's 240 12 by 24 cooling towels for the fire department. Global Monticello Group, $6,399.19. That's 3,047 gallons of diesel fuel. Grade A Petroleum, $1,427.79. That's hydraulic fluid lubricant motor oil for central garage. Granger, $1,488.35. Safety glasses, cleaners, disinfectants, and cleaning equipment for the Parks Department. Herrick Hardware, $1,987.05. Miscellaneous hardware, maintenance supplies for all departments. Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., $1,420. Traffic signal maintenance. Morgan Auto Supply, $1,986.63. Auto parts for the fleet. Motorola Solutions, $12,428.70. Mobile radios and accessories for the police department. National Grid, $1,034.40. Natural gas for multiple locations. Nelson Pope Engineers and Surveyors, $2,647.50. Engineering for the Gin Lane Stormwater Project. Nelson Pope and Voorhees, $8,329.75. Consulting services for the village and administrative boards. Norsec and Son, Inc., $7,952.17. Village garbage and portable toilets. Optimum, $1,980.49. Village cable and internet. Pine Barrens Printing, $1,698.10. Stationery and business items for the village. PSE&G Long Island Collection Services, $22,346.99. That's Village Electric Services. Revco Electrical Supply, $1,164.53. That's buildings maintenance supplies. Rivet Building Supply, $2,552.54. Lumber and materials for multiple locations. Signify North America Corporation, $16,920. 60 LED lighting fixtures and nodes for Phase 2 of the LED replacement program. Southampton Excavation and Development, $6,350. That's brush and stump cost. Sprague Operating, $6,524.70. That's 3,250 gallons of gasoline. Student Roth Consulting, Inc., $1,800. ARB Consulting Services for the months of June and July. Suffolk County Police Department, $1,598.58. Uniforms for the 6 seasonal police officers. Ling Chen Sun, $2,500. That's a refund of a deposit for an event. Town of Southampton, $1,427.40. That's 6 loads of bulk material to the transfer station. Trias, Inc., $1,249.03. Gutter broom motor and valve assembly for central garage. Vaso Systems, $4,841.87. That's parts for the street sweeper. Vehicle Tracking Solutions, $1,271.47. That's GPS services. Verizon, $7,379.33. That's 2 months phone services for the village. Verizon Wireless, $3,065.90. That's village cell services. WB Mason, Inc., $2,069.48. Paper and office supplies for all departments. Whitmer Associates, $1,240. Safety equipment for the ambulance barn. Moving on to the August capital disbursements. SCC Construction Management Group, $18,500. That's construction management for the ambulance project. August trust disbursements. Atlantic Coast Embroidery, $1,610.37. That's CVO shirts and hats. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion now. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2019.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts an insurance recovery from the New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal in an amount of $29,466.03.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the following purchases from capital reserves subject to permissive referendum. A Chevrolet Traverse out of Major Equipment for $30,732.70. That's the purchasing of the vehicle that was lost that we received the insurance recovery from. An HVAC unit and installation at the SCC building from Facilities Reserve for $8,990.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Yastrzemski.
Aye.
Trustee Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Trustee Polero.
Aye.
Now resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby awards a mini bid for a 2020 Chevrolet Traverse from Eagle Automall Sales in an amount of $30,732.70.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following allowances and change orders for the ambulance barn capital project. $8,500 to Arrayas Design for revised sanitary plan. $24,646.02 to Central Air for revised and additional ductwork. $30,476 to Rollins Electrical for additional electrical work for exterior lighting and fire marshal requests. $19,025 to Morton Buildings for roof snow bars. $32,487.95 to Hirsch Plumbing for fire marshal requests.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next resolution is, has to do with the acceptance of a water quality improvement grant from the Town of Southampton CPF. So we'll entertain a motion, whereas the Town of Southampton, pursuant to provisions of 64E of the New York State Town Law, authorize the use of a portion of the Community Preservation Fund not to exceed 20% for water quality improvement projects, and whereas the specific types of projects eligible for funding are enumerated within Article 6 of Chapter 140 of the Town Code, and whereas the Village of Southampton is proposing a series of drainage improvements to an existing drainage system along North Main Street and Powell Avenue, Railroad Plaza, for the purposes of improving water quality at the system's outfall at Agawam Lake, which qualifies as an eligible WQIP, and whereas the village, by letter and application requesting funding from the town for the Railroad Plaza drainage project of the CPF WQIP funds in the amount of $211,600, and whereas after a public hearing and due consideration, the Town Board of the Town of Southampton, by Resolution 2019-713, authorized the CPF WQIP funding award to the village for the Railroad Plaza project in the amount of $211,600 in accordance with the village's request. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby accepts the Town of Southampton CPF water quality improvement project funding for the drainage improvements at Railroad Plaza to improve water quality in Lake Agawam in the amount of $211,600, and hereby authorizes the mayor to execute all documents necessary to contract with the town.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that based upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Public Works and the Garage Supervisor, the Board of Trustees hereby declares the village's 2003 GMC Isuzu garbage truck be deemed surplus and authorizes the sale of said vehicle through Auctions International.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Public Works and the Village Environmental Planning Consultant, we release a bond in the amount of, where is it, $127,000, which is an irrevocable letter of credit, and be it further resolved that a maintenance bond agreement with a bank check from J.P. Morgan Chase to be deposited in a trust account for the village in the amount of $12,700 be accepted, with the maintenance bond having an expiration date of August 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees approves a $2.50 per hour increase for EMT government accounting services for the 2020 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Reese Nugent to lifeguard effective August 10th, 2019 at a rate of $13.50.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees accepts the resignation of William Rayner, laborer in the Parks Department, effective August 9th, 2019.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Russell. So now we can move forward with a motion to adjourn to executive session.
The resolution that we talked about on, we talked about earlier.
Not the grant. The grant for the, we didn't put that on there.
You talked about it earlier, and you wanted to move.
Oh, the one for the tech conversion?
Yes, this software.
Oh,
Good catch.
Good catch, counsel.
Where is that?
so we'll entertain a motion resolved. Can you word it? Yeah.
Yeah, the
wording.
SCA contract contingent on SCA getting the appropriate and subject to the contract being in a form found acceptable to the village attorney and the village administrator,
And to the board or just to you two?
as well as you.
Okay.
Because you get to vote.
Right. Okay. So moved.
We'll go with Polaro.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne. All right. We'll now move to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing contractual and personnel matters.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.